let me ask you something. I've always wanted to ask you this for a while now. So, as a financial planner, because I also one of my other loves, in addition to fitness, is financial planning, wealth management, those types of things. So, when you're talking to someone about who's maybe just starting out, or maybe a little bit behind, or hasn't done a lot to get themselves on a secure financial footing, what's the biggest pushback that you hear from people when you're trying to convince them that this is something they should take seriously? What's the biggest objection or pushback that you get? Because I have a guess.
The biggest objection. So what I do with mostly is, I would say I specialize in retirement planning. So I help
Yeah.
individuals kind of towards the end of the road when they've accumulated some form of wealth and they need to manage distributions throughout retirement.
Okay.
But but if I
And
had
just general conversations with other young people or whomever you
right,
talk
right,
to day to day. What do they say when you're like, is this something you should take seriously? You should really, it's better to get started yesterday. The best time to get started was yesterday.
right.
Second best time is today. What is the pushback that you get?
Well, again, I think it goes back to your discipline and patience in knowing that you're sacrificing. There's trade-offs in life, right? You're sacrificing
Yeah.
something today for something that's kind of uncertain in the future.
Ding,
And
ding, ding. That's exactly what I figured you might say, is that people say, what do I care? I'm just gonna, when my number gets called, then it gets called. And if I only have $5 to my name, then that's the breaks. But to me, uh, if you can have that discipline to get started early so that you're in a good position to work with someone like yourself,
mm-mm.
to manage that wealth, because once you do get to a certain level, that's when it's really time to bring someone else in to help you navigate those financial waters.
Right.
But if you have that discipline, I think you will put yourself in a much better position to have such a long life. And in that book that you reference, I believe the name is called Outlive by Peter Attia, if I remember correctly. I read it a couple times. So you think I should remember it, but
Right.
one of the reasons that you put in this work with your physical fitness is so that you can have a long health span. And in the book, he describes the word health span being different from lifespan. Lifespan being just how long you live, but health span meaning how many of those years are really productive, vibrant, you're flourishing, you feel good with mind, body, and spirit. And if you A, have fitness discipline, and B, have financial discipline, I think they go hand in hand, and you put yourself in a really good position to not only have a long lifespan, keeping your costs down, your healthcare costs down in your latter years, but also having a really good quality of life in those last several chapters of your life.
100%. And I think this falls into the category, unfortunately, of you know some things are easier said than done. We all know we got to eat more vegetables. It's very simple, right? But it's like, why is there so much friction around just that simple step? And I think in for a lot of people, and I'm just speaking for here in the U.S. And in Hawaii, right? Is if you're grinding and you're just making it by, it's really hard to justify saving for the future because your kind of window of focus narrows into the present, right? I need to make it,
Hmm.
and also
Hmm.
too, there is, if you're busting your butt working hard, it's really hard to tell somebody don't reward yourself with a little bit of a with a little carrot and put that
Yeah,
money into savings. And I'm
yeah,
not. I think you're 100% correct, but there is that friction there, and I think it is really hard for some people. Now, if you
yeah.
have that discretionary income, it's an easier choice. So it's like philanthropists who are billionaires or multimillionaires giving away money. I mean, let's draw some comparisons to what that's like for individuals like me and you, right? There's a lot more friction for me and you. And I think savings is the same way. When you're earning a certain threshold, it's a lot easier, right? Because you have a little bit more wiggle room and discretionary income to do that.
I also think that, yes, all of that is true. I think if you really are grinding and barely making ends meet and only have just enough money to last for the entire month, then it is maybe time to just take a second look at where each dollar is going. Because if you're just doing what you've always done and not putting any critical thought into it, there could be some subscriptions that
Sure.
maybe you don't need. Maybe that $50 a month that you spend on subscriptions would be better, or at least it's worth the thought to put maybe towards an HSA or a plan for your college, your kids going to college. There's a couple of the tax advantage savings plans for college. I can't remember the acronyms and everything, but just at least, if nothing else, taking that time to reevaluate and looking at where every dollar is going and making sure that you are really putting every dollar where you want to put it, and there truly isn't any. If after all of that there really isn't any more dollars for long-term savings, then I understand that. I would also say that maybe it's time to take a critical look at the side of the equation where you're earning. What is the job? Is there a way to get another certification that would take you to the next level in your job, or is it maybe time to look at a career change where something might be more lucrative? We need to get more coming in. Also, final point on all of that: push-ups and sit-ups and air squats, pull-ups in the park. None of that costs $1. So if you really truly don't have any equipment, there are ways that you can set yourself up to have a nice long health span, even without spending $1, I would contend.
Sure. No, I like that. And I think both the fitness, health, and saving for retirement and managing money, they both rely heavily on delayed gratification, right? And that's hard to come by. Okay,
I think it's sorry to cut you off there, but I think it's a switch has to go off. You can't. It's almost like, believe it or not, I used to smoke when I was young.
So did I, right?
20 years ago. Did you really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so people would tell you got to quit, and it really just takes something in your head to finally say, you know what, I'm just not going to smoke anymore. And thank God, 20 years ago plus now, that switch went off. I can't remember what it was, but it's, one day I just woke up and said, I'm done. I can't do. I shouldn't be doing this anymore. And so I think it's a psychological thing for your physical fitness and your, financial wellness.
Yeah.
That you really just have to want it. If it matters to you, you will do it. And so, however you get to that place where it actually truly matters to you, where you finally realize how important these things are, then it's going to become a passion, and then it's going to be like you game on, and you're really going to be hyper focused. But until that, if you're just kind of holding these things at arm's length, it's tough to really, really find success. But once you really get both feet on the playing field and get in the game, then it's game on.
100%. I totally agree. And I think having those kind of revelations, or when it all clicks in your head, that light bulb turn on moment, it's just it's getting to that point. But once it clicks and you say, okay, so you're telling me if I just keep putting money in this box with compounding interest, it's going to keep growing to this big number? Wow, it clicked. And it's for some reason you could tell people that, but it doesn't click. But once it clicks for people, then it kind of, you're off to the races, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that moment when in showing people, what if you put $50 a month or $100 a month or $10 a week into, a money market account, whatever that interest rate is getting you at your 10, 20, 30, 40, how much you actually put in versus how much that's going to be worth. That's the moment where a lot of people go, holy smokes, like I can't believe I got to get in right now. And I think on the fitness side, it's I'm starting to feel like my pec feels a little bit bigger than it. Wow, my shoulders popping out a little bit farther than it used to. And that's that moment when you start to feel, all right, now I'm seeing some results and I see why I need to do this. And that's, the psychological switch has been flipped.
The opinions and statements presented on this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Never make any investment or financial decisions based on information offered on this show without first consulting your financial, legal, or tax advisor. All economic and performance information mentioned on the show is historical in nature and is not indicative of any future results. All indices mentioned on this show are unmanaged and cannot be invested in directly. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Lastly, all opinions opinions expressed by Jason Cutitta and any guests on the show are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of or are endorsed by ToBA Financial. For Jason Cutitta, investment advisory services are offered through ToBA Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Hawaii and in other jurisdictions where exempt from registration.